Requiem by Anna Akhmatova is a lyrical cycle, a series of poems written on a theme, but it is also a short epic narrative. The story it tells is personal, but like an epic, it transcends personal significance and describes a moment in the history of a nation. Going into the lyrical cycle, Requiem talks about Akhmatova's experiences and emotions during the Great Terror or Great Purge of Russia, which began in the mid-1930s. The cycle begins with her experience waiting in the lines of prisons, talking about the despair she saw from the women whose husbands and sons were imprisoned or killed. However, she also sees the hope of the people. That was when the ones who smiled were the dead, glad to be at rest. The poem continues with her husband being taken to prison. For 17 months, I have been crying out, calling you home. Her son is also taken and she is in despair at the hangman's feet, which is a reference to Stalin, when she wrote letters to him to let her son go. Despite it, he was sentenced to labor camp. The poem ends with two epilogues describing how these events have left the Russian people and herself. As this poem entails, the Russian people were not safe and were in constant terror under Stalin's rule. The Soviet Union leader, Vladimir Lenin, head of the Bolshevik Party, died in 1924, and Stalin rose to power. However, upon his rise to power, some members of the former Bolshevik Party began to question his authority. By the mid-1930s, Stalin believed anyone with ties to the Bolshevik or Lenin's government was a threat to his leadership and needed to go.
1934, and a man called Sergei Kirov is having a great day. Just kidding, he was shot and died.
Sergei Kirov was a Soviet politician who was much younger and popular than Stalin. Many believe Stalin ordered him killed because he felt that many were conspiring to replace him with Kirov. Stalin used Kirov's death to start the Purge. The Great Purge was a brutal political campaign led by the Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin to eliminate dissenting members of the Communist Party and anyone else he considered a threat. If he believed you to be a spy or a threat,
shot.
If you questioned his authority,
and shot.
If you complained or stood up to him,
and shot.
Stalin also created labor camps called the gulags, where he would put anyone he did not kill that disobeyed or rebelled against him. Some people would be wrongly accused and sent to the gulags by the secret police, which was led by Nikolai Yezhov, which is why some also refer to the Great Terror as the Yezhov Terror. During this period of the Purge, which ran from 1936 through 1938, 650,000 people were shot and a further million were sentenced to the Gulag. 100,000 Communist Party members and over half of the military high command were killed. The country was weakened by this and was unprepared for Hitler's invasion in 1941. Anna Akhmatova was one of the most popular Russian poets of the 20th century. What most distinguished her work is the way these emotions arise from the historical trauma of Akhmatova's native land, Russia. Akhmatova reflected all of the pain and devastation from the Great Purge into her poetry. She was one of the millions of people that suffer from these events. Akhmatova's ex-husband was arrested and executed in 1921 for counter-revolutionary activities. After he was killed, she was no longer allowed to publish and was forced to withdraw from public activity. Her friend Osip Mandelstam was sent to the gulags in 1938, where he died that same year. Her partner at the time, Nikolai Punin, was arrested briefly and her 23-year-old son, Lev Gumilov, was imprisoned in order to punish Akhmatova for her disloyalty to the Soviet Union. Akhmatova's only crime was writing the true horrors she and so many other Russians had endured during Stalin's rule. Her poetry gave her people hope and a drive to fight back for a better life, which the Soviet Union disapproved of. This goes to show how much power the written word has. Although Akhmatova never really rebelled against Stalin's rule, her writing of the truth and the injustices that were being committed were powerful enough to inspire other fellow Russians to stand up and fight back. Her writing of Requiem will always be important as it serves as a reminder of all the suffering and pain that was caused by a dictator.